costume nearly suffocated one actress. Another left an actor bleeding internally. A third caused damage so permanent that surgery couldn't fix it. These aren't freak accidents. They're the hidden cost of some of the most iconic looks in science fiction television. So in this video, we're pulling back the curtain on the costumes that didn't just look painful, they were. 10 cases where the character design left a mark that lasted long after the cameras stopped rolling. This is the side of your favorite sci-fi shows that never made it into the behind-the-scenes featurettes. Jeri Ryan, Star Trek Voyager. When Jeri Ryan joined Star Trek Voyager in Season 4 as the Borg drone 7 of 9, she instantly became one of the show's most iconic characters. The silver biosuit that defined the look, however, was genuinely dangerous to wear. The costume was so restrictive that Ryan's ability to breathe was significantly compromised. On multiple occasions during filming, she had to be given oxygen between takes just to get through the day. The situation was serious enough that the production eventually had the suit redesigned to allow more room, though it remained punishing throughout her time on the show. Ryan later described the experience with characteristic dry wit, but the reality was that she spent years performing physically demanding scenes in a costume that was actively working against her body every single day. Tricia Helfer, Battlestar Galactica. On Battlestar Galactica, Tricia Helfer's 6 was defined as much by her platinum blonde hair as by her red dress. The problem was that Helfer's natural hair is dark, meaning her scalp endured aggressive bleaching throughout the entire run of the show. The repeated chemical processing left her hair increasingly brittle over time, weakening it to the point of structural failure. The moment of crisis came on set one day when a stylist ran a brush through her hair and half of it simply snapped off and fell away. Production scrambled to overnight a wig so filming could continue. The damage that had accumulated over seasons of bleaching had quietly been building toward that breaking point, in the most literal sense possible. Jason Momoa, Stargate Atlantis. Jason Momoa wore Ronon Dex's signature dreadlocks across 5 seasons of Stargate Atlantis. But what viewers saw as a defining character trait, Momoa experienced as a mounting physical problem. The weight of the locks was causing him neck problems, and by the time the 4th season was done, he had reached his limit. He wanted them gone. The irony was that Sci-Fi Channel hadn't even wanted Ronon to have dreadlocks in the first place, but now they refused to let him cut them on screen, convinced the look had become synonymous with the character. The solution was to fit him with a wig, but it turned out to be even heavier than the original locks had been. As Momoa said at the time, summing up the situation with some resignation, "What are you gonna do?" LeVar Burton, Star Trek: The Next Generation. Geordi La Forge's visor, the device that gave the blind engineer the ability to see, is one of TNG's most distinctive design elements. For LeVar Burton, however, wearing it was a daily ordeal. The prop worked by fitting directly over Burton's eyes and blocking virtually all incoming light, leaving him functioning at roughly 10% of normal vision while on set. Navigating a working television set while nearly blind created constant physical strain, and Burton developed a persistent headache that became a fixture of his working life across the show's 7 seasons. The bitter irony was inescapable. The device that gave his character extraordinary vision was systematically taking Burton's own sight away from him every single day. Michael Dorn, Star Trek: The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. Michael Dorn holds the record for the most appearances as a single character in Star Trek history, which means he also holds the record for the most hours spent in a Klingon makeup chair. The daily transformation into Worf took between 3 and 5 hours and involved heavy latex prosthetics, industrial-strength adhesives, and layers of paint applied directly to his skin. Over the years, the cumulative effect of those chemicals took a serious toll. Dorn developed chronic dermatitis, and by the 2nd season, his skin had begun visibly reacting against the process, reddening and flaming and breaking down between applications. He pushed through it across multiple series and feature films, which means the discomfort wasn't a brief ordeal, but an occupational condition that defined decades of his career. Ruby Rose, Batwoman. Ruby Rose's tenure as the lead of Batwoman ended after a single season, and while the full circumstances of her departure were complicated, one element of the role caused problems almost immediately. She was allergic to latex. This would have been manageable in most contexts, except that the Batwoman cowl was made of latex, and she was required to wear it constantly. As Rose later explained, each time she put the cowl on, her sensitivity worsened, turning every suit up into a slowly building physical issue. The situation reached its peak when she removed the mask at the end of a shoot one day and found her entire face had erupted in hives, her throat swollen and constricted. Her own words for it were that it looked like something out of a horror movie, which, for a superhero production, was not exactly the intended effect. Julie Caitlin Brown, Babylon 5. Julie Caitlin Brown originated the role of Na'Toth in Babylon 5, the aide to Ambassador G'Kar, but she did not return for Season 2, and the prosthetics were a significant reason why. The makeup required to transform her into a Narn was extensive and harsh, and Brown developed allergic reactions to the materials used in the prosthetic appliances. The physical toll accumulated across Season 1 until it became untenable. Career considerations also played a role in her decision to step away, but the body simply wasn't cooperating either. The role was recast, and Brown would only return to it briefly years later in a single Season 5 episode, under improved makeup conditions that had evolved considerably by that point in the show's run. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Star Trek Enterprise. Long before Jeffrey Dean Morgan became Negan on The Walking Dead, he appeared in a single 2003 episode of Star Trek Enterprise as Damron, a time-traveling reptilian Xindi soldier. It was his first experience with full monster makeup, and it surfaced something he hadn't known about himself. He was claustrophobic. The process of having his entire face encased in prosthetics, breathing through tubes while the material set, then acting through layers of latex and contact lenses that turned his eyes yellow, pushed him to a genuine breaking point. Speaking about it years later, Morgan described going home each night and questioning every professional choice he had ever made. The experience was serious enough that he briefly considered walking away from acting entirely. He has since drawn a firm line: never take a role that requires his face to disappear. Virginia Hay, Farscape. Virginia Hay's performance as Pa'uzo Tazen on Farscape earned her a devoted following, but the physical reality behind those striking blue robes was quietly brutal. The elaborate, full-body makeup required to render Zen's alien appearance took hours to apply and was unrelenting on Hay's skin. Over 3 years of filming, the accumulated chemical exposure and the punishing schedule combined to cause serious internal damage. Hay has stated that the physical toll left her bleeding from her kidneys. The situation eventually became impossible to ignore. She departed the show at the end of Season 3, citing her health as the deciding factor. For audiences, Zen's exit was a dramatic story beat. Behind the scenes, it was a body that had simply reached its absolute limit. Tucker Smallwood, Star Trek Enterprise. Tucker Smallwood played a Xindi primate counselor in Star Trek Enterprise, a supporting role that required the kind of detailed prosthetic makeup the franchise had long made its standard. What followed, however, was far from standard. The tight application of the prosthetic pieces around his eye area clogged a pore near his left tear duct. Smallwood delayed seeking treatment, not wanting to miss work, and by the time the damage was addressed, it had progressed beyond straightforward repair. Multiple surgical attempts to correct the blocked duct were ultimately unsuccessful. Of every entry on this list, he is the one with the most permanent outcome. A minor guest role on a science fiction series left him with lasting eye damage that no amount of follow-up care could fully undo. 10 costumes, 10 actors. All of them paid a price the audience never saw. If there's a case we missed, and there are almost certainly more out there, tell us in the comments below. Subscribe to the TV Show Pilot YouTube channel if you want to see more, and head to tvshowpilot.com for articles on all your favorite shows.